Watching the Market Day Report, I'm Janet Adkison. Well, the ag industry finally gets a glimpse of the Senate's version of the 2018 Farm Bill. Lawmakers released the draft legislation on Friday with some similarities to the 2014 measure, but also some key changes as well. RFD-TV's Washington, D.C. News Bureau Chief Sarah Mock joins us now live with the latest details. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Janet, and good morning. Well, June is shaping up to be Farm Bill month here in Washington, with the Senate dropping their version Friday afternoon and a scheduled markup and vote for later this week on Wednesday. Then, of course, next week is June 22nd, when we'll be seeing the House's version voted on again on the floor. And then, of course, the Senate version is expected to be voted on, according to Mitch McConnell, by the end of June, which means that congressmen and senators could be in conference trying to square up those bills by July 4th. Now, of course, there is a lot to square up, seeing as the Senate version of that bill is a lot more bipartisan than what we saw coming out of the House. Apart from those farm changes we've already talked about this morning, there are a number of less significant changes to programs like rural development, a strengthening of programs like telemedicine and substance abuse to address the opioid epidemic in rural places. And then, of course, additional funding for loans and loan guarantees around rural broadband, always a popular issue here in Washington. Now, the bill also strengthened some research funding and increased funding for local ag development programs, including farmers markets, and otherwise kept energy, horticulture, and forestry programs relatively the same. Now, one notable difference with the House bill is that there were no changes to work requirements under the nutrition program, which ensured on the Senate side that the key contention on the House side would not cross over. Despite there being relative bipartisanship, there are a number of expected amendments for Wednesday, including an amendment expected to be brought by Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley. He's concerned about FSA loopholes that allow, as he says, non-farmers to collect farm subsidies. He's had a contentious debate in the media with Mike Conaway, the chairman of the House Ag Committee, on that issue. And Pat Roberts' office, the chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, expects that if that amendment does come up, it will likely pass. There was one change in the Senate Farm Bill to that issue. There was an adjustment to there was a change to the adjusted gross income cap in the Senate Farm Bill, which brought that limit from $900,000 down to $700,000. Otherwise, not a lot of changes in that vein. But Grassley's amendment is just one more example of how the Senate and the House have a long way to go to reach that, to have a bill on the president's desk by September 30th, when that bill expires.
And Sarah, you mentioned, of course, the House is set to re-vote on the House version of the bill on the 22nd of this month, but we still hear there's some extra hurdles to still get over. Are they going to make it?
Absolutely. We heard some reporting late last week and earlier this week that, or over the weekend, that Mike Conaway, the chairman of the House Ag Committee, was excited about some news he'd heard on immigration, but it seemed like that may have fallen apart late last week. Again, we heard from Mark Meadows, the head of the Freedom Caucus, who held up that vote, who led those Republicans who voted against the Farm Bill last time, that he's clear. A deal has not been made. His caucus has not got what they needed on immigration, and they will not be voting for the Farm Bill until they do. So if the Republicans can get that immigration vote before June 22nd, I think we could see a Farm Bill. If not, it's very much up in the air.
All right. Well, thank you very much for keeping us up to date, Sarah, as always. Again, Sarah Mock, our Washington, D.C. News Bureau Chief. Now, several ag groups are reacting to this latest version, including the National Pork Producers Council, discussing the